in Tennessee.
Here we go. The Vol View live right now on Carving It Up. For some reason, I thought we were supposed to have an audio of John Ward, but for some reason it wasn't able to play, I guess. I don't know if you guys heard the late, great John Ward, the former voice of the Volunteers. So I see my man Devin's in the comments. He loves it. Yes, quick wardrobe change. That video gave me enough time to do it. So, on the first edition of the Vol Viewpoint. So, Tennessee's going in this year. A lot of changes from last year in terms of the roster. A lot of big, high key contributors left in the draft a year ago, most notably Hendon Hooker, who unfortunately ended last season hurt on a torn ACL. And so you consider the fact you've had all those pieces, that you lose Jalen Hyatt, who, all he did was score 5 touchdowns against Alabama. I don't think that's ever been done in the history of college football against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Also, you lost Princeton Fant, your tight end. You lost Cedric Tillman, your number 2 wide receiver. You lost Byron Young, your best pass rusher. So all that, and you're like, Bryson, are you sure Tennessee's going to be, in that mix to potentially be in the college football playoff, dare I say, this year? I'm here to tell you, there's a little secret between the two of us. I think we may have a better chance. Is Joe Milton as efficient at times? To a certain extent, as consistent as Hendon Hooker is? No. Not from what I've seen, at least. But in terms of upside, Lord have mercy. You're going to see it tomorrow. I'm going to predict the Virginia game in just a moment as I predict the rest of Tennessee's schedule in this first edition of the Vol View. If you put, and I'm not kidding when I say this, Joe Milton, and you put him in a throwing contest with Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, I would go to Vegas and bet Joe Milton could throw a football further than both Allen and Mahomes. He has a freaking missile of an arm. You also consider the fact that your 2 running backs from last year, Jabari Small, Jalen Wright, both are returning this year. Both were big-time contributors last year. You still have, despite losing Hyatt and Tillman, a great receiving core. You have the Thornton kid that transferred from Oregon. You have Ramel Keaton. You have Brew McCoy, who made the big catch last year to put Tennessee in field goal range to beat Alabama. Your backup tight end, who's now going to be your starting tight end, Jacob Warren, is highly productive. And defensively, you return almost everybody, including Aaron Beasley. So, and the defense was a concern for Tennessee. That frankly, the defense is always going to be a concern under Josh Heupel, because that is something that he has, throughout his time in Tennessee, has struggled with his defense, because of the fact that, when you're a Tennessee Vols team with a number of, they go high-flying offense, hurry-up offense, very similar to Chip Kelly. Defense is going to be on the field about 40 minutes out of the game. They're going to give up big plays in that span. But Tennessee, their brand, they have to win a lot of shootouts. That's their thing. They got to win a lot of shootouts. And so whether or not they're able to do that is going to be a question mark for them. But throughout the time that we've seen Josh Heupel back to his first year, last year Tennessee going 11-2 with an Orange Bowl win against Clemson going into this year. And I did a segment last week on Tennessee, 2 weeks ago rather, on Tennessee, about how they were the 12th ranked team in America, despite returning numerous defensive starters, despite replacing great offensive players with arguably greater offensive players. Your head coach is back. The continuity's there. And by the way, you happen to play in a pretty weak division, the SEC East, which will be disbanded next year. So you get to take advantage of some of those teams one last time, at least all in a row. So if we have the background music to go and play this, because I want to get in the predictions for the Tennessee Vols 2022-3 season. Let's see if we got it. All right, so Tennessee season, here's the graphic. They begin tomorrow against the Virginia Cavaliers. Again, a team, Virginia, that struggled last year, only went 3-7. Tennessee coming in this game, obviously, is the 12th ranked team in America. This is a game in Nashville. It was just in Nashville a couple weeks ago. So, great to see Tennessee coming back play there. It's going to be a de facto home game, essentially. Might as well be an extension of Neyland Stadium at Nissan Stadium. Listen, Tennessee got better offense, better defense, better coach, the whole bit. I think this is going to be obviously, at the end of the Vol View, I'll put the final score predictions for every game. In this instance, because I'm predicting the schedule, I'll go and put up the final score here. Tennessee's a 27.5-point favorite. I've got them winning this game handily. 52-17. Those of you doing quick math, that is a 5-touchdown victory, ladies and gentlemen. Tennessee 52, Virginia 17 to open the 2023 college football season for my Vols. We win 52-17. To the next game, Austin Peay. Again, from a matchup standpoint, it's not even close. They'll beat Austin Peay. That next game, Florida. Let's put that back up. The next game against Florida. Now, I don't know if you saw last night. But Florida doesn't look too good. And I gotta say, Florida is up there with the Yankees, with the Cavaliers, really all Cleveland sports, and increasingly, as I've become a Steelers fan now, the Bengals and the Browns, and even the Ravens, Devin. There's some of those teams I just really don't like. And I revel in the fact that the Florida Gators are borderline irrelevant. Firing Dan Mullen just 2 years ago, one of the better offensive minds in the SEC, and bringing in Billy Napier, who led the Gators to a 6-7 record a year ago, and they played Utah last night. The Utah Utes, the defending Pac-12 champions. And a quarterback by the name of Bryson Barnes for Utah. First play of the game, play action, 70-yard bomb for a touchdown. And the Utes cruised to a 24-11 win. The Gators were undisciplined. They looked unathletic. They were poorly coached. And for the first time since 2001, before I was even here, folks, my Vols are going to go to Gainesville, and we are going to beat Florida handily and start 3-0. Next game after that, University of Texas San Antonio. Again, big talent gap. Tennessee will win that one easily. First real test to me comes against South Carolina. Now, South Carolina last year, that was the house of horrors for my Vols. And I do mean house of horrors. It was bad. Went to South Carolina, lost their quarterback for the season, and gave up 63 points, Ball Nation? 63 points on the road to effectively end our college football playoff hopes. It was a very bad night. My man Grady Edwards, who's a big South Carolina fan, he called me after the game. It was just, I love Grady, but man, but that was rough. Still haven't quite recovered. Anytime you drive, if you go to South Carolina, drive by, it's just like, ugh. It's like get the shivers from that game. Spencer Rattler. You got Coach Beamer over there, the son of the great Virginia Tech coach Frank Beamer. This is going to be a dogfight. I think South Carolina is going to be a real player to challenge Tennessee for that second place in the SEC East, because I do think Georgia is going to win that division. They're just simply more talented than Tennessee and, frankly, everybody else in the SEC, with the possible exception of LSU. But South Carolina's got an excellent quarterback, great weapons, very good defense. I mean, they finished their year, folks. South Carolina beat Tennessee, Clemson, and Notre Dame to end their season. The South Carolina Gamecocks. That was how they finished their last 3 games of the year. So that's that's a loaded roster by South Carolina standards. I'm sorry, Notre Dame beat South Carolina. I apologize, but they played Notre Dame down the wire. But they played themselves in the top 25. They come back this year with a lot of momentum, and I think that's going to be a tough one for Tennessee. I don't know what the line on that game is right now. I don't think Tennessee will cover because they'll be favored, but I've got them winning by a walk-off field goal. The next game Tennessee plays, home against Texas A&M, I believe coming off of a bye. Tennessee against the Texas A&M Aggies is coming off a bye, yes. Again, Jimbo Fisher and the Aggies coming off of a very disappointing season last year where they had college football playoff hopes and had some bad home losses, some upset losses, some pretty horrible football teams. My bad, actually, Texas A&M went 5-7. They were a bad football team last year. They'll come in better, more motivated. They actually beat Tennessee and Neyland a few years ago. We'll take care of business. Our defense will, I think, have a surprisingly good performance. Joe Milton will get the job done. Throw a dagger touchdown to Ramel Keaton to break the game open. And Tennessee beats Texas A&M to move to 6-0. Then the first big one. I mean, big one. Big test. In Tuscaloosa against the Alabama Crimson Tide. Where Bama, I've already checked, is a double-digit favorite in that game. This despite the fact that they lost Bryce Young, their Heisman Trophy winner from a couple years back. And in his place is it Jaden Milroe? I know Milroe's his last name. Jaden Milroe's his name. Starting for Alabama tomorrow. And assuming the length of the season. If you saw Mr. Milroe against Texas A&M, but again, a bad Texas A&M team hosted Alabama and were a couple yards away from beating them. Go back and watch. Literally a couple yards from beating Alabama in that football game with no Bryce Young. And I'm supposed to believe, Bama's going to be coming back. We're doubting Bama, and that's when Nick Saban flourishes. Sure it is. The problem is That team in Baton Rouge, LSU, Brian Kelly, thank God we don't have them on their schedule because I think they beat us. I think LSU's better than Tennessee. You don't have to worry about that guy. You don't have to worry about a number of teams in the SEC West. Tennessee's going to go on the road to Tuscaloosa, just like we did in Neyland Stadium, winning a walk-off field goal against the Alabama Crimson Tide. And there will be smells of cigars smoke in Tuscaloosa. Just not coming from the Alabama faithful. Sorry, Crimson Tide fans, but nah, screw it. I'm not sorry. Moving on to the next matchup. Tennessee on the road, Kentucky. I actually got a bet writing in this one with my grid teammate, Dalton Brown, who bets that, because we've guessed the line, we've set our own line for this game. Tennessee -5. And he really likes their young quarterback they have there, and we certainly know that that Stoops, the head coach in Kentucky, has done a fantastic job given the talent that he's had there. Made Will Levis look somewhat competent, in which I think he's going to fold in the NFL. That's neither here nor there. Kentucky's got a good defense, some good weapons, very talented young quarterback. This game is in Lexington, after all. Last time Tennessee played Kentucky in Lexington, it was a shootout down to the wire that Tennessee won by the skin of their teeth. But I got Joe Milton. I got Keaton. I've got Thornton. I've got some big playmakers. Brew McCoy. Kentucky ain't got that. And by the way, I have Josh Heupel. With all due respect to Mark Stoops, he's no Josh Heupel. Tennessee, if you're listening, Dalton, will go on the road to Lexington, beat Kentucky, cover the 5-point spread that we've already set for them, and get their record to 8-0. Homecoming game against UConn. UConn historically has some of the worst defenses in college football. They'll beat them handily. At Missouri, I think is a little bit of a tricky one. Because you're like, oh, Missouri. Think about this. I was actually at the Missouri game last year in Neyland Stadium, and Tennessee won 66-24. They were up 59-24 until Josh, and they could have taken a knee, by the way, until Josh Heupel said, you know what, Joe Milton? Go and take a shot down the field, down the left sideline, in which he did. Tennessee scored shortly after to get the score above 60, kind of rubbing it in a little bit. Can't assume Missouri liked that all that much. So you have that motivation from Missouri. Not to mention the fact Tennessee's got Georgia the week after. Is this a game where they're like, we beat Missouri by, what is it, 6 touchdowns? We got them. Let's worry about Georgia. It's the best team in the country. Georgia will come into that game 10-0 and undefeated. Could they look past Missouri? I think to a certain extent they could. I'll give Tennessee the win, but close against the Missouri Tigers. Finally, these last two games, finishing with a 2-game homestand. The big one against the best team in America, I believe, the Georgia Bulldogs, who I think have a fantastic chance to complete the three-peat, to win 3 straight college football national titles. They have a good young quarterback, certainly more talented than Stetson Bennett. They have become defensive line in recent years. You look at some of their defensive linemen drafted in the first round, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, by the way, some of their better interior defensive linemen. Georgia's great in the secondary. They're great in the defensive line, and they've always been a great, football program when it comes to linebackers. Their offense is just as good as it's ever been. Brock Bowers is one of the best tight ends in college football. He'll be a top 5 pick next year, I believe. He's that talented. Folks, they run end rounds with a tight end. That's how good he is. So that's going to be a lot for Tennessee. I don't think they're able to overcome it. Tennessee suffers their first loss of the year against the Georgia Bulldogs, I believe. They've got to be objective at some point, right? And then they host Vanderbilt, and they beat Vanderbilt handily, as they have really throughout the history of Tennessee football. So that's what I got. Tennessee goes 11-1. They do not win the SEC East. Therefore, they do not win the SEC. But they make the college football playoff as the 3 seed, given their impressive resume. And I think they lose to the Michigan Wolverines in the semifinal. That's my prediction for Tennessee's season. I think we improve off last year. Win 11 games, get to the playoff, and lose to number 2 Michigan, who I think is going to face Georgia in the national title game. There you go. So, the Vol View, we got a comment here. Yeah, Barry likes it. He's got the fire emojis. He likes it. So, this can be something we're doing every Friday at 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific time, right in the middle of our Friday shows and carving it up. Obviously, next week NFL season starts, so I'll be doing a bunch of NFL predictions that week. And so, the Tennessee's segment's going to come before that. But that's what we're going to be doing. Moving forward, the Vol View, signing off. Until next week. Again, let's put at the final score. Tennessee will beat Virginia 52-17. And so, from the Vol View, this is Bryson Carver signing off. Let's get back to more sports after this.
football time in Tennessee.